Okay, welcome back, U.S. government. So we left off talking about how states arose. We talked about the social contract theory. So let's talk about some of the political philosophers that kind of outline that theory and some different theories about states and political ideas in general. So there are a lot of different people that influenced the writing of our Constitution and how it was set up. The two political philosophers that we're going to focus on are Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. So Thomas Hobbes was a little more of the pessimist, and John Locke more of the optimist as far as government is concerned. So Thomas Hobbes has a famous quote that men are brutish, or life is brutish and short. You're gonna live, and you're gonna live in fear, and you're eventually gonna die. And if you're lucky, you won't get murdered. That's basically his reason why human beings came into governments and forming into societies in general, is out of fear. And if we lived in a society with a government, they could protect us. And that's that social contract idea. The government will protect us, and we'll give up rights, we'll give up freedoms that come in what he calls a state of nature. And a state of nature is the idea that if I go out and I live in the woods and I don't have any interaction with other human beings, I can do whatever the heck I want. I can climb a tree if I want. I can eat whatever food I want. I don't have to worry about laws or regulations. But I could also be pretty susceptible if a group of 50 people came by and saw me living in this state of nature. They could kill me and nobody would know the difference. And that was a fear that people have. So you would enter into these social groups to protect yourself. That was Thomas Hobbes' idea of why do we form into societies? Why do we form all this organization? Why do we allow people to rule our lives and dictate laws to us? For safety, for our own safety. And if you live in a state of nature, it's terrible. It's anarchy. It's chaos. You're going to die. Governments can help protect you from those things. John Locke is a little more optimistic. He believes that governments form a social contract with the people, and it's the people's responsibility to keep the government in check. The idea of popular sovereignty kind of comes from John Locke as well. So the government's job is to protect life, liberty, and property. So where Thomas Hobbes says you enter into a government and a society to protect yourself from dying, okay, life, John Locke concedes that, but he also says the government should be protecting your freedoms. The government should be working to make sure you're as free as you reasonably can be. So should the government limit things like murder or theft? Yeah, but they shouldn't limit things like freedom of thought and freedom of the press. That we value here in the United States today. And lastly, he put property, which is a huge thing in British, the 17th century in Britain. The government shouldn't be able to come on your property and take what they want or search what they want and be corrupt and take you to jail for certain things. So John Locke was very big on those three rights that need to be protected in this contract. Okay, so how did these theories shape America's system? So when American founders were creating the government, they focused on theories of a lot of different people. We didn't list all of them, obviously. There's a lot of others we could have listed. Montesquieu is a very famous one that we didn't talk about. But they focused on theories of individuals ruling over the government with a limited government, and the people are in control that preserve individual rights. So they talk about popular sovereignty first. Who's in charge of this government? We, the people, are in charge of this government. So if it becomes destructive and we don't like it, we have the authority to overthrow that government. We have the responsibility to overthrow that government and install one that's better. And we've actually done that in our history 2 times. We overthrew the British and installed the Articles of Confederation. We rewrote the Constitution and scrapped the Articles because it wasn't working. So that's the idea of popular sovereignty. Second, limited government. Limited government means the government doesn't have total control over your life. You are free to decide if you want to go to college or not. You are free to decide if you want to have a sandwich for lunch or a taco for lunch. It's your choice. And if you want to say that the president is great or the president is terrible, it's your choice. The government isn't going to arrest you and limit you in those types of things. Whereas that's not the case everywhere in the world. Go to China and get on Facebook. Oh, wait, You can't, because it's blocked, because the government doesn't let you. They don't want you seeing and being exposed to those types of things. Go to North Korea and say, man, the government really stinks. You're going to get arrested. You can't have that type of freedom in a place like North Korea because it's an unlimited government where the government has total control over all aspects of your life. Lastly, there I have individual rights, preserving individual freedoms and rights and responsibilities, freedom of choice, freedom to make your own decisions, whether that leads to success or failure in your own life. Whose responsibility is it? Yours. This is America. You have the freedom to make your own independent choices, even if they're good or bad. Okay? All right. So now we're going to talk about purposes of government. The best place to go to the purpose of government is the preamble of the Constitution. Okay? So the preamble says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. To ourselves and our posterity, our future, do ordain and establish the Constitution of the United States of America. Those are your 6 purposes of government. And it's the first paragraph of the Constitution. We outline what our government should be doing. And James Madison is who's right here. He's the one that outlines that idea. Okay? So what do those mean? Form a more perfect union. The government should link the people together to try and create some sense of belonging in this country. The Articles of Confederation failed at bringing us together as a cohesive nation. The Constitution is much more successful at that. Our obligations to our country never cease but with our lives. That quote from John Adams. The idea that we should be supportive of our country and love our country. That's form a more perfect union, and the government can help in that process. Establish justice. The government's job is to create laws created that are reasonable and fair and impartial towards the population. You shouldn't have laws that target certain parts of the population to benefit other parts of the population. That's not justice. That's prejudice. So, great quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Civil rights movement is a great example of establishing justice in the country, where we didn't have justice established for everyone in this country until we fought for it. Okay? Ensure domestic tranquility. Ensure peace at home. Tranquility. You're tranquil. You're relaxed. Peaceful. Domestic is within the country. Ensure, we're going to make sure this happens. Provide peace at home. We want to make sure there's not anarchy. We want to make sure there aren't people rioting in the streets. People are obeying laws, and if you fail to obey a law, we'll establish justice and we'll arrest you. So if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Once again, it's a great quote from James Madison in Federalist 51. We need to ensure domestic tranquility. If we didn't have a government protecting, it'd be the purge. People would commit more crimes. People would live in chaos. Provide for the common defense. The founders understood when they wrote the Constitution that one purpose of government is protecting its people. If we were invaded by the British again, we needed to be able to defend ourselves. So the government is responsible for organizing, training, paying a military to defend its citizenry. And the last 2, promote the general welfare. That one is very disputed. A government is supposed to provide a thriving society, is what they mean by that. People hear welfare and they think food stamps and things like that. But promoting the general welfare could mean building roads to help people travel faster and become more efficient. Promoting the general welfare could mean promoting education in public universities and schools to help people become educated and thrive in society. It could also mean, you could also interpret that if you have starving citizens, for the welfare of the country, the government should help feed those people. If you have people that are homeless, the government should provide government housing shelters for them. You can interpret it that way. It's up for interpretation there. And then secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to us in our future. One goal of the government should be to keep us free, to not become tyrannical, to not limit individuals' freedoms, to not take away your freedoms. They that can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's Ben Franklin. I think that's a great thought about our modern era and how much access we allow the government to have into our lives, and whether or not that's a good thing. We're giving up some of our own privacy for security. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.